Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John, Fletcher, and Sydney Nicole.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Common Ground podcast. Yes, it is your boy, Philly. He is in the house. He is ready to get things started, and I am excited as always. Now, with me to my left, Sydney looks good playing the drums. Sydney looks good playing the guitar. Sydney looks good playing the keyboard. And Sydney looks good on lead vocals. I guess you can call Sydney the All-American Band. So please welcome with me, Miss Sydney Nicole.
Hey, Philly, how's it going? I only played 2 out of 3 of those. I can do vocals, I can do keys. Don't put me on drums. I'm not gonna lie. Don't put me on drums.
Oh, man. You know what the best drum solo is? Is In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins.
You're not wrong.
You
You
know?
are not wrong.
I have gotten that down pretty well.
That's a gift. That's a gift.
In my head, I play really good drums, but actually, I think I've learned some stuff. So, but
Good.
so I was watching what was it, Beethoven, the movie? I know it's about a dog, but it made me think of the musician, Beethoven. And so I turned to my daughter and I was like, many people told Beethoven that he would never be a musician because he was deaf. But did he listen?
All right, valid.
She's like, Dad.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Okay.
All right,
And
give me a second.
give you a second?
Yep, give it to me.
All right. I tried to make my online password drum set, but the website rejected it. The error message said the password cannot contain syllables.
Ah, yes. Valid.
Those darn syllables.
Those darn syllables. Those darn dad jokes, dare I say. Okay, I like the Beethoven one. As always, please let us know what the best dad joke of the episode was in the comments. John, will you please, with gratitude and grace, introduce our guest of the day?
With pleasure. Today's guest is DaChri's, an independent Nashville-based recording artist. For more than a decade, DaChri's has been pursuing his musical calling in Music City, navigating the highs and lows that come with chasing a dream. A pop rock artist with roots in alternative rock and pop R&B, DaChri's creates music that is deeply personal, authentic, and rooted in real-life experiences. His upcoming concept album chronicles a journey many people can relate to. The excitement of new beginnings, the heartbreak of loss, and the hope that comes from rebuilding after life's most difficult seasons. Beyond the music, DaChri's story is one of resilience, reinvention, and staying true to yourself in a world that often rewards image over authenticity. As a working musician, balancing creativity, career, relationship, and personal growth, he brings a unique perspective on what it means to keep moving forward when life doesn't go according to plan. Today, we'll explore DaChri's journey through Nashville, the personal experiences that shaped his music, the creation of his upcoming album, and his thoughts on authenticity, creativity, and the future of music in an age increasingly influenced by artificial intelligence. Good, please give a warm and hearty welcome to DaChri's.
Hello, everyone.
DaChri's, tell everybody that's listening, where are you calling in from? Where are you from originally? How
calling.
What do you
I am calling in from Nashville, Tennessee. Originally, I grew up in Detroit, so yeah, that's where I am.
Very nice. And everybody tends to romanticize Nashville in the music industry. What's the part that nobody talks about?
Um, the hard work aspect of it, and I've seen it from different angles. I know some friends that saved up a bunch of money, didn't get a job, and just did 3 sessions a day for months, and have tried to go that angle, and those like myself that have to get a full-time job and then do music around the full-time job, and
Mhm.
um and nothing's ever guaranteed. You're not guaranteed a cut, you're not guaranteed a publishing deal, a record deal, or anything like that. It's just, they call it a 10-year town, and you know hopefully that's going to work out for me, as I'm just a little bit past that. But it can be a lot of work. It's a lot of networking. But it really is a beautiful place, a beautiful space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take me back to the moment that you decided music wasn't just something that you loved, that it was something that you were willing to risk your life for. In the sense that, like, music, they call it starving artist for a reason, right? So, what did that version of you believe success would feel like?
That was probably just before I moved here, when I really started to pursue artistry as more than a hobby. I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I started recording some songs. Was in a couple of bands and things out there. And, growing up, I was a shy, quiet kid. No one really paid too much attention to me. And, when I started doing this music, it was just like, okay, I have a lot to say, and this is the vehicle in which I'm going to use to say all the things. And then when I started recording, I was like, okay, there's something to this. Just the connection I was having with people that were hearing the songs, and just how they were. Um, it was the first time I felt like I could really say something pivotal and somebody would understand it, compared to the quiet kid I had been, where, even if I did speak, people weren't listening. So, um, that's kind of where it started. But then when I left Tulsa and came here, I started another band. And just when we started playing shows and really getting out there, and um, in those bands, I was always the lead vocalist, songwriter, and all the things. And kind of became a responsibility. It was like, what am I writing? What am I saying? Um, there's a power that comes with it, and I want to make sure that I use my power for good, and in order to uplift the little guy, and the quiet guys like me, and the good guys, and all the things. And um yeah, that's when it started to become something that I was like, okay, this is something that is not only something I love, but something that there is a yeah, I think there was a calling for me, I think is what it was. And yeah, so that's kind of really where it started. Hopefully that answered the question. But yeah, that's for me, that's where it really started.
I think it does. What was the difference in moving from Detroit to Nashville? Like, what did you expect Nashville to be that Detroit wasn't?
Well, like I said, so I went from Detroit to Oklahoma to Nashville, and
Right.
Oklahoma is really that connecting piece. I think that one, I knew that there was a scene here, and two, I think that when I was in Oklahoma and started to rumble a little bit when I was in Detroit, because I was a teenager then, and where it's just like I knew that I wanted to be a creative. I knew I wanted to be an artist, a singer, and pursue that. And there's some places where you live where it's just like, oh, that's cute. What's going to be your real career path? What's going to be your real thing? And I know that. Well, I visited Nashville first, and I just remember when I visited that there was a lot more like-minded people here, and even the people that don't do music, they're not in the industry, they understand it. A lot of them, and I just needed to be surrounded by people that are going to speak into that calling and uplift it, as opposed to talk down to it. So that's really why I moved here in the first place. So
That's an interesting thing, because my question to you was going to be, moving to a place where it's full of people fighting for their dreams. I would feel that it could do one of two things. It could either inspire you and create that hustle even more, or it could intimidate you because you start comparing yourself to other people who are trying to accomplish the same dream. Is there a balance of that happens, or is that
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So originally when I came here, yeah, I was inspired. Um, forced me to be ultra driven and super locked in. And then somewhere midway, it did become a comparison thing for me personally. And that's something that I've had to deal with and you know, talk out with a lot of friends and close peers. Um, yeah, because you see people that you came up with in basements and little small rooms, all of a sudden doing these crazy things, and your pride tells you that that should be me. I should be doing that too. I this person isn't, whatever you want to think. This person isn't better than you or whatever, and you're just like, um, yeah, that was an internal battle for a good period of time, I think, and it goes through ebbs and flows. I try to remember that my journey is my journey, it's not someone else's. I try not to let the success of others make me envious or jealous and deter me. I always try to bring it back to that space of just being inspired, being motivated. I think I also try to surround myself with a good balance of people that are new to the city,
Yeah.
because they usually have that bright eye and that drive, whereas some people that are been around for a little bit can be more jaded and or people that have to decide to hang it up or whatever. So um, I try to surround myself with a little bit of everything. People that are new,
Right.
people that have been doing it, people that are working consistently, locked in, regardless of results, and yeah.
I think that there's a lot of value in what you just said. I think that the real value of being in any industry, okay, not just exclusive to music, has to do with networking. And this is what I try to teach my sales representatives. I own an exterior home and auto remodeling brokerage, which means that we fix cars and houses no matter where you're at, no matter where you live. If you got hit by a storm, that's considered an act of God. That means you didn't will the ice balls of hail to fall from the sky and damage your roof or damage your car. I fix it. My team fixes it at a discounted rate compared to companies in your area. The music is a lot of the time it's the same way in the sense that there's a lot of risk that's incurred by being just an artist in the industry. There's a lot of reason that goes into that a lot of viewers are not going to understand. So that being said, without like deep diving into the whole nitty-gritty weaves, what sacrifices did you have to make in order to pursue music?
For me, it's all time, money, relationships. I think that one of the bands I love, might be, taboo or whatever, but, it was Hanson growing up, and I remember the youngest brother, the Hanson brother, saying that
sorry.
yeah, I remember one of the youngest brother in Hanson saying that, that they lost friendships over their band because they had to be, spend so many hours a day working on their craft and so many, they're on tour, they're out of the state, and they're doing all the things, and I think that, um, that is where a lot of my sacrifice came in. Like for most of my time living here, I've worked 2 jobs minimum, sometimes 3, to financially support myself in getting my songs out, getting my craft, um, perfected with, different lessons and things like that, and then, rollouts and marketing, all the things, and then, time-wise, if you're working a full-time job and then you're in, doing music stuff 20, 30 hours as well, that's another job there. And then, potential friendships or relationships that could have maybe gone deeper, you have to um, spend time to, they say 10,000 hours. And, for some of us, it's way more than that to truly break through or make a dent. So that's usually where it is. But I think, now, having done it for a while, I think I've learned more of the balance of it, in order to, and I say that it's an ever, I'm ever a work in progress, but just kind of figuring out what's a priority and what's not, and what's something that's worth investing in as far as like a relationship or friendship and um, financially.
I think that's a great segue into starting to talk, but yeah, I think that before I ask my questions, I think that people have this Disney version of what it takes to make it in anything. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
whether it's business, whether it's podcasting, whether it's music, that, oh, I just have this gift. I can do it 9 to 5 and I can still live life and everything else. But if you want to own your own business, if you want to do a podcast, if you want to sing, if you want to act, if you want to whatever it is, you got to invest, and it's going to come between friendships. It's going to come between stuff because I was just me and my boys, we hang out for birthdays, and each one of us, and last minute somebody was like, "Oh, we're going to do it on a Monday night." I'm like, "I got podcasting stuff I have to do on a Monday night." And one of the people got really angry and like, "You can't drop that?" I'm like, "No, I can't drop it. This is what I'm working for, you know?"
Mhm.
And and I mean, we're cool and everything, but like it costs. And
Yeah.
if you want to succeed, it comes with a price. It comes with a fortitude. And one of the things that I've appreciated was doing some of the studying on how to grow a business that that's helped me on my mindset to do this podcasting.
Yeah.
Because I would have went into it bright eyed thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
put in some time and it'll all work out. But no, you got to work hard.
Mhm.
And um, that thing of friendships and costing, and I'm glad that you've gotten to a place where you're like, I now know what's healthy investment was, which is non-healthy investment.
Mhm.
But let's go because your album's built on your journey,
Yeah.
and your journey starts with love, marriage, and heartbreak, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah. I
so
mean,
talk to us a little bit about that.
my journey really starts with just like moving here, like you said, and honestly, I was bright eyed and a little naive coming in, and I'm still a big dreamer, but I think it's a little bit more realism in the dream. But yeah, my journey for the album and my story really starts with just moving out here and meeting a lot of people and heavy networking and just writing and learning how to write different styles. Because when I first came, I was doing like alternative, indie rock type stuff, and then over a course of time, I learned how to write pop songs and um, R&B songs and things like that. And then yeah, and then um, I met somebody, and then started dating and fell in love and got married, and um, all the while I'm in a band that's kind of starting to tour and do some other things like on a smaller level, and it was just amazing because I think that was only like 3 years, 2 years after I moved here. So like in my mind, I'm doing it, and I was, and it was great. I felt like I had, made it, even though, like I said, it was on a smaller scale. And then, a couple years later, married again, like I said, and then a couple years after that, is when it kind of all starts to fall apart, and I'm working bunch of hours trying to um, pursue my craft, and my marriage has fallen apart for numerous reasons, and I had a lot of friends that move away. That's the one thing they don't tell you about Nashville is for a lot of people is to pass through town. And I thought I was going to build long lasting, forever relationships, but there's so many people that I attached myself to that end up moving on for whatever reason. And so I'm going through all of that at the same time. Um, and then toward the end of my marriage, as it's getting dissolved, I guess, and the divorce is in process, is when I started working on this record. So we started working on it before before the divorce was actually final. So it was an interesting headspace and heart space to be in while trying to create something. So yeah.
I don't know if this was your marriage because we haven't really gotten into in the pre-show to describe what kind of things went on. But I know, like, through my first marriage, one of the issues was that I was always this entrepreneur type of a person, right? I always had these ideas. I always wanted to start stuff. I always thought that I could create something. I'm a creator.
Mhm.
Love creating. And I felt like every time I started to create, like the partner that I chose, that wasn't like they were, I need 9 to 5. I need stability. I need to know what money's coming in every week, and that led to a lot of, unhappiness because I try to fit my creativity spirit and do what was necessary for a family, but which didn't work because I was unhappy,
Yeah.
and anytime I was happy, they were unhappy. So, um, like, not only do you need to worry about picking your friends that are gonna be supportive of your dreams and your goals, but the person who you select, at least for
Mhm.
me, um, you need to make sure that they're on board for the journey that you're gonna go on. And I don't know if this is same for you. I'm just looking at my experience and being like, I
Yeah.
can understand how maybe that may have affected you.
I think it's a couple different things. I think, yes, um, you know, obviously everybody knew that this is what I was pursuing, so they, my, f ex was, on board with that, but I think also when it comes to being an entrepreneur and a musician, you don't even know what it's gonna look like when you start it, and I think that it got to a place where, as we talked about earlier, the balance of things, I think there's an unhealthy um, uh, portrayal of what work ethic looks like and hustle culture. And I think that we can work hard and find balance and do all the things without killing ourselves and our, important relationships. And I think for me, one of the things that I was doing was I was just going too hard for too long and not balancing the time needed to spend with the other person. I think that was, um, you know, I had their blessing to do the music, but I also, I'm already, like I said, I'm already working 50, 60 hours at the main job. Then I'm doing this 20 to 40 hours a week. And I wasn't like spending that time. And I think that in my mind, they're like, oh, I'm like, okay, they're cool with this because they know this is what I'm doing. But I think that in hindsight, communication's a big thing of just being like, I want to, this is where I want to go and this is what I think it looks like to get there. Are you okay with that? Um, and that conversation just didn't happen. And that's something that I've learned after the fact that, yeah, that's one thing that I should have done. And then done check-ins, periodically as the thing is happening because, um, yeah, like I said, I was in bands and I was in a group of 4 to 5 other people, and we're all trying to lift this thing together. But then when it became just me, I was like, okay, I don't have to, in bands too, you have to move at the same pace, because you can't go without them. But when you're by yourself, it's like, okay, I can go as fast and hard as I want. I can put the gas pedal down all the way for as long as I want. And I think that, yeah, I think that I did too much in a small time frame in order to, get to my goal. And like I said, there's a balance there. So, and I think I had to hit the wall before I realized what the balance was, and unfortunately, that was one of the things that cost me my marriage. It wasn't the only thing, but it was a big thing on my part that I had to learn.
That's a hard balance too, because it's like sometimes heartbreak isn't losing a person per se, it's losing the future that you had imagined, right? Like, especially when we haven't gone through that journey with somebody, it's like losing what we had envisioned that future to be with that person.
Mhm.
Um, how much do you feel like your marriage became intertwined with your identity as an artist? And what do you feel like happens when both things start unraveling at the same time? Like when we're talking about you as an artist versus you as a husband kind of thing. How did those 2 things kind of, like, get interwoven?
I think that when I was really kicking this thing off, they really weren't interwoven. I think, even just from this the type of music I was doing at the time, it reflected that of a single guy because part of my story. Was when I started doing this music, I started it was just songs that we were writing to pitch to other people and to sync or whatever. So
Mhm.
it necessarily wasn't my voice. It was just songs that I'd written that were cool. And then they didn't get picked up for whatever reason. And I was like, man, these songs are really good. And I'm like looking at my producers and I'm like, maybe I should just start a project and release them. So I think I already started off on the wrong foot of inauthenticity when I first started this project, because like I said, that wasn't necessarily how I would want to represent myself as an artist now, looking back on it. But the songs were, as the kids say, bangers. And I was like, these are great. These have to come out. So like, I think there's already like a psychological thing of, when I'm this artist, I am a single guy, and then, I come home to my wife after, giving all I had to everything else for 14, 16 hours a day, and just had nothing left. And I think that was, one of those sad things that, like I said, I had to learn by going through it. And yeah.
Divorce was the wake-up call, or do you feel like something else woke you up first? Or
When we got separated, I think was the wake up call of, the of her moving out, and and saying that she wanted that. And like I said, I think this is the big thing on my end. There are other things that would have led to that, to the whole divorce, but um, the part that I know that I contributed was this for sure. So, but yeah, I think that's when it was like music has become unhealthy for me. It became an idol as opposed to my career path or my dream. And I think there's a small fine line with that. And I definitely went over that. So yeah.
that I love that term that you use, because I just loved how you just described that, because I'm even looking at myself and I'm like, how much is this an idol versus how much is this just me being authentically me,
Hmm.
and who I am and my passion. So I think that's a great thing to look back and really ask yourself that deep question regardless. Um, when did the either lack of authenticity or the switch of, man, I'm not being authentically me, when did that happen at the same point, or was that a different journey? Is that something that took even longer to realize?
Might have been around the same time, um, but also kind of separate. I think it was just I was performing at a show, um, and there were certain songs that my small fan base was asking me to perform, prior to the show happening, and I was like, I don't want to do that song. That doesn't reflect who I am as an artist. I'll say also at the same time, I'm writing the songs for the album. So like I'm playing these shows with the old songs, but at this time I'm writing songs for what I know the album is going to be. So with this album, I've uh, leveled up in um, my well everything really, but um, my lyrical and conceptual and all the things. So like uh, I'm playing a handful of shows at this time, and but the other days in that week, I'm like in the studio, like pouring out my soul, and then they asked me to play these songs that, like I said, I released that I thought were just really good, catchy songs. I'm like, I don't want to play any of those,
Mhm.
um, and I did play some of those, but it just that's when I think the turning point for me was like I'm becoming a different artist, and you know it even seeps in your head like, are they gonna like this new artist that I'm about to be? Because
Yeah.
I don't, and I'll say this too, like I still have like catchy pop songs that I've written and released since then, but they have a deeper resonance with me now than the first things that I released. So, hopefully the audience will grow with me, or maybe it'll be a different audience, but that's really what it was, I think.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that when you grow as an artist, especially when, like, you have a crowd as a young artist and then you develop from there, you just naturally attract a different like, the Common Ground podcast experienced that, where we, from a early age, had a different demographic than what our long-term audience will be. So, what did you discover about yourself that were things that you didn't face prior to becoming this new person that you were presenting as an artist?
Say that again.
What were the things that you discovered about yourself that you didn't want to face necessarily, indirectly or directly, as the artist that you present as today?
I think I've discovered a lot of things. I think, I said what I just said, but also I think some parts of me realize that maybe I'm not as deep as I think I am. Maybe I am or maybe there's a journey I'm still going on to get to where I really want to get to. I think I'm working my way there. I think there's songs and messages that I have yet to write that um, I might be scared to because of the fan base that I've built. Um, and it's like I feel like this album is in transition. Actually, I feel like because it's partially still pop, and then there's like a lot of heavier, meatier songs in it, and I feel like. Lord willing, if this thing continues, it's just going to get deeper and less hooky, catchy things, and just more like honest, authentic, um, weird. I dare I say songs because it's funny because that's actually where I started. When I first came out here, I was doing, like I said, indie rock. We're doing 6-minute songs, some
Yeah.
without choruses, all the things. And then when the band ended, is when I started doing songwriting. Because that was like the only thing that I knew that I could do to still remain in artistry. And then we wrote pop songs that were supposed to go to someone else, and then that's how this thing started. So um my heart inclination tells me I'm going to go back that way because that's just, I feel like that's a deep part of who I am. And I think that worries me a little bit just because it's like, people love the woo woo type songs,
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you talk about the different styles of music that you've kind of experienced and are doing. What chose what made you choose the way you want to structure this album? Because you do display that multiple genre type of music.
Yeah. So I'll say the one genre this album covers that I really haven't covered before was alternative rock. Like I did pop R&B and some rap before. And then when I approached my producer, his name is Cole Tag, shout out to him. When I approached him about this, as I'm in the middle of separation and all the things, I was like, dude, I think this is going to be my last project, and I want to go out with a bang. I want it to be the thing that, like my swan song, my final hurrah, the the greatest, grandest statement of a project that I can make. And I was like, but with that, I want to reincorporate alternative rock, which is um, a genre that I've loved since I was a teenager, and something that I felt like when I was in those bands, I was not able to get great songs in that genre. And I know that he was a great, not only songwriter, but producer and all the things. So I was like, you know, coming into this album, I want to take the best of what I'm already doing, which is the pop R&B thing, but then take the best of what I've always wanted to do. Because I think that was what I always wanted to do, was be an alternative rock band, and put those together in this cohesive album and just make a statement. And that's kind of how it began. So yeah.
What was the hardest and easiest song on this album for you to write, or has it not been written yet?
The album is written. It's done. I think the hardest one was one that I released last year called No One Said. Um, because when we wrote it, I'm in the middle of separation. It was the first song I really got to scream in. You hear some screaming in the background on that. Um, it that song is cool because it deals with being angry with the situation, angry at myself, angry at her, confused, and I it was not something that the separation divorce was not something that I publicly discussed or posted about or anything like that. So it was just like a quiet dissolve, and that was really like my first time really telling people um, about it, and that was also hard. And then like doing the content for it and all the things, and we played it. I played it live before it came out, so just like knowing that this was going to be, sent out into the world, and it got really good reception. So knowing that, in my mind, as a set designer, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep this in the set, and I'm going to be playing this every time I play a show. So I think that was the hardest one, and then I think the easiest one, was, it was one called Golden, which has not come out yet, but it's the first song that, Cole and I wrote together, where we knew that there was something to this partnership, something to this relationship. It was just how smooth the song came together, and, we wrote that before we knew that there was an album. I actually wrote that with him, and then I asked him to go to lunch shortly after, and was like, "Dude, like, it's on my heart to do an album. Would you like to do that?" And we go on our journey of writing all of our other songs, and then we're like, "We need a couple more." And I was like, "Wait, what about the first song we wrote together? That fits into this narrative." So we ended up putting that in there. So that, I think it could have been harder if I'd known that that was gonna be, that I was writing an album about my life story at the time, but since I didn't, it was the easiest one, I think, to write.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said for the fact that people remember how something makes them feel, not how polished it was. And I'm not saying that you can have like a total shit show that you can just like
Yeah.
throw out there. It's like, but music tends to evoke emotion. And that's really, really important for the industry that you're in. I think that that's something that I remember when the first band that really hit me in the feels, as people say, like,
Yeah.
was Red, and it
Oh, yeah,
was the
yeah.
song "Not Alone." Now, granted, this was a song that it was polished enough where people would be like, "Yeah, like, that's a complete song," but not a lot of people even then had heard of it, where I would go to the kids or the youth in my age demographic and be like, "Have you heard this song?" Where if I were to mention I can't even think of the artists and Nicki Minaj, or like I can think of the people or the artists in my era that people would name my demographic musically, would
Mhm.
be like, "Yeah, I know that song." Red wasn't one of them. Like Red was not one of the ones that came to the forefront of people's mind. This was one that people would not know more than likely.
Yeah.
And my point in saying that is really just to say that I don't think that music is supposed to be something necessarily that is always recognized. It's just supposed to be something that hits you in your soul.
Mhm.
Well,
Yep.
that's what I feel like music is supposed to be. And
I agree. I mean, can't tell you how many songs that, back in my band days that were never produced and never released, and just songs that we would play live that would resonate with people that were definitely not polished, and that is another reason I love music. Is just because this raw, messy thing resonates. Where sometimes there is a polished song that is quote unquote using all the formula, the math, music math that should work but doesn't work. So
yeah.
that's what I love about music too. Yeah.
If you were to not like if you were to classify your genre of music, what would you classify it as?
I always tell people that it's pop hybrid. There is an artist named John Bellion who is a huge influence for me and a lot of my friends, and he does it so effortlessly, and that's something that I want to work my way into. But and I've been trying, but he's pop, but then he also will rap on songs. Um, there's also rock elements in songs, and ambient elements in songs, and even spiritual elements in songs. Um, and I consider myself pop hybrid. So it might be pop R&B on a song, it might be pop rock on a song, or alternative pop. But that's what I consider myself to be. Typically, when I play shows, it's mostly with pop artists. Um, but yeah.
In our pre-meeting, you said something that really stuck out to me and that I didn't realize. You said that you wrote over 40 songs to find the tracks on
Mhm.
this one album.
Mhm.
Um, is that the normal process for any album, or was it particularly the process for this album?
I know of other people that do things like that. And I know every artist does things differently, but I think for me, there was a specific story that I wanted to tell, and like we were talking about authenticity, but earlier in the episode, um, you know, being that we've put a lot of hours in between myself and my producer and co-collaborators, I know we could get good songs, without writing 40, but I wanted it to tell my story in an effective way and be every song be true to me. And, in my mind, for my background and influences, it's a no skip album. I didn't want any filler songs. So that's why we wrote 40. And honestly, we thought at one point that it was done. We thought we had the 12 songs that we wanted. And I told Cole, I was like, we need to go back in and write a few more. I don't want this to be something that, it's like, oh, there was 3 cool songs on there, and I skipped 9 of them. I don't want that. I was like, it is worth it to keep going, and because I knew what level of greatness the 2 of us together could attain. So we just had to keep going. So um, yeah, I don't know if everyone does that, but I know some people do. Some people, they kinda just they might do instrumentation first, and then they'll go back and add lyrics in for, their 10 songs or whatever, and that's how they do it. But, I do remember hearing a story back in the day of Michael and Quincy working on a bunch of songs for Thriller, and, if they're doing it, there's probably nothing wrong with it.
Before we get into our final subject of AI creativity and the future of music, you had said something a little while ago that I wanted just to ask you about. You said this was your final project.
So that is the mindset that I went into when I first started working on it. I think the beauty of it is that now that I've um, completed it as far as writing and gone through some life, I know that I don't feel like I'm done. I feel like there's more story to tell. Um, It's just that in the moments of the beginning, that's kind of what it felt like. And maybe that's some brokenness from going through the divorce and all the other things that were going on at that time, losing friends and, you know, the guilt, the weight of, my hustle culture, addiction and all that. I think that might be where that stemmed from. But being that it's not out, and like I said, being that I feel like I know what sonically I want to write next, I don't feel it's the last anymore. It's just, we'll see what happens. We'll see if, you know, God enters the scene and lets me continue. But I feel like I do have a lot more to say, so I don't want it to be the last. No,
So all those fans of yours who passed out earlier are now coming back to
they're back. Yeah, thank you
life,
for sticking
to
around,
life.
guys.
Oh yeah. The
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's a lot of people that I've heard and done studies on that. Um, they thought they were done and then some miracle happened and they got to continue. They got signed to a label or got the right manager or found their fan base and they were able to continue. John Bellion being one, Switchfoot, like their huge album that they released, The Beautiful Letdown, they were told that they were going to get dropped by their label and all the things. And then they were like, well, this is going to be our last album. And that was the album that took them off. And so, yeah, hopefully this is not the end. I feel like I have a story to tell and my sonic is unique for where I'm at. My sound is unique for where I'm at, and yeah, there's more stories to tell. So
I think that, like, maybe the future belongs to the people who stop trying to make music sound perfect. You
mm,
know what I mean?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that there's something to be said for that. I know that I have used AI specifically in music. Um, I say this because we recently had a guest who, in writing, specifically claimed that they were autonomously, autonomously doing the writing.
common
Yeah, right.
some
Doing the writing for the book. Okay, like here's the thing: AI is the future. I am in zero denial of this. Okay, there's no version of me that says that AI is not the future.
Mm,
Zero denial on my half of the one third, my one third of the spectrum is saying that AI is not the future. However, I wrote my book entirely myself. I've written 3 books. I actually originally I made my book 1 book and then I was like, this is 3. So I like found where it changed and I divided it into 2 books. And then I was like, this isn't 1 book, it's 2. And
mhm.
I changed it to 2. And then I wrote a 3rd book that was autonomous from the original 2 that I had written. And I think that that's where people I think where people get concerned with AI is their fear that AI takes away from their intelligence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, yeah.
I think that people fear that if AI is involved, that it somehow, some way subtracts from their ability to create, to have autonomy, to have authority in the industry that they are registered with. That
Mhm,
is what I am here for. My job is to take people who use AI and to still establish them as an authority in the industry that they partake in. And I am damn good at it, just for the record.
mhm,
AI does not take away from what someone does as a person. It adds to what they do as a person. Now, assuming that you are actually putting in the work, assuming that you are actually doing what it is that you are proclaiming that you are good at doing, then there is no harm in artificial intelligence adding to the organizational skill set, adding to the systematic implementation that you offer to your clientele basis as someone as an expert in your industry.
mhm. Yeah,
Artificial intelligence only subtracts from what you do if you proclaim as some sort of content creator, influencer, e-commerce expert, whatever it is that you do that e-commerce can do, okay? It only subtracts from if you proclaim that you did it in place of artificial intelligence. Does that make sense?
yeah, so you're claiming that you did the entirety of the work, but you actually used.
If you claim that you did it when you didn't, then we are in 2026. Now, I'm not saying this is you by any stretch of the imagination. This conversation in and of itself speaks to the fact that you are not one of those people, just for the record. I'm going to state that for the record because John and I have had guests where we're like, nah, we're like, did you really though?
Yeah.
So this is not one of those situations, but what I am saying is that artificial intelligence can be a real gift to the people who have enough knowledge of the technological industry, who have enough like advantage or connections to say, "Hey, I am capable of this. Let's expand it, extract it, and implement it on this basis." Okay, that's where I get involved. That's where John gets involved. We take people who are like good at what they do and we expand it into excellence. That's the foundation of the Common Ground podcast. Some people don't need that. Some people do need that. But
Mhm,
when you come onto the Common Ground podcast and you say, I am an expert at XYZ, and John and I can be like, are you really though?
yeah,
That's where you shoot yourself in the foot.
mhm,
That's where you should, because artificial intelligence speaks for itself. I own an AI mobile application. Philly sole-handedly represents the Common Ground podcast in terms of clips, in terms of blogs, in terms of the clip, like what is represented on a social media basis of the Common Ground podcast. So having somebody like you on here be like, hey, this is like what I stand for. This is what I want. Like, that's what we want here. That's what we want at the Common Ground podcast is like, this is my goal. This is how I vision to expand. Like,
mhm,
genius. We love that. We love those types of guests. What we hate is the people that come in and say, yeah, I've done XYZ, where we can verify based on artificial intelligence. We can come in and say, we know that actually you applied for XYZ at $75 per application or less.
mhm,
We know that you weren't actually representing what you stood for as an artist, as an author, as a publication, as a business, whatever it is that you do, it doesn't really matter. We want to represent good people. Does
mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
The fact that you've been able to come in here and say, like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is the type of music I stand for. This is the direction music is coming from. All of those things are genius. And also, not saying you've done this necessarily, but so my personal trainer, he owns a gym in Fort Collins, and just the other day, he was talking with me and he goes, "You know what? I was literally just listening on the way home from work to this Celtic blend of hard rock, Celtic, and gospel music, and it was entirely AI, and it was disclosed from the beginning." He was like, and it was genius. Mind you, this is a 56-year-old man. He's my dad's age or something like that. He was born in 1968 or something like that.
Mhm.
He's one of my biggest mentors in my life. His name is Rock Adams. He named my first book. I love this man with every fiber of my being. He
Mhm.
was like, I was listening to this song on my way home. Every fiber of this song was AI. Mind you, this guy hates AI. He hates artificial intelligence. He hates
Yeah.
the idea that people have these genius ideas that are manufactured by artificial intelligence. We take someone like that with the IQ of a doctorate's associate. Like, this guy has the IQ of somebody who has completed over 8 years of college. He counsels married couples. He counsels students going into college for their master's degree. He says, "I hate this, but I love the fact that somebody who can have this faith comes in with this idea and say, 'I love the Lord,' and he, like, comes in with all Celtic, hard rock, blah, 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 blah." So my point in saying that is that AI is not the enemy, okay?
Mm. Mhm.
In any way, shape, or form. But where does the work come in, right? So if an AI genuinely moves somebody emotionally, does authorship matter?
I feel like in the artist world, that's a huge philosophical question. Um, I think, like you said, if you disclose it up front, um, then you're good. And if people from there decide that they want to partake and engage and invest, then that's great. But I think the dilemma and the issue is going to come in where people don't disclose it and they make it seem like they played this grandiose piano or guitar or whatever, and an AI did it, or they wrote these lyrics and this melody, and they had AI assist in that. And they're just, I mean, it's just like plagiarism, right? Like if you're claiming you wrote something and before AI, if you're claiming you did something, you didn't do it. So I think that's where the problems can come in. But I don't know. I think the AI issue is, there's so many layers to it. I do feel like there's going to be a whole AI section in Spotify soon, or Apple, where people were like, okay, I want to listen to AI music. Um, One of my favorite songwriters, Ryan Tedder, he talked about it and he said, over in Japan, they're like 10, 15 years ahead of us, and they're already doing like AI concerts for the AI artists and all the things like that. So I think as long as, just with like anything, if there's no deception in there, then I think, what you choose to do at that point is fine, as long as you let people know up front, this is what it is, or, I partially used AI for this, and, but yeah, I've seen some of the things that it can do, and it is pretty cool. Not gonna lie, it is pretty cool to see what it's come up with, and what it can do. So yeah.
Agreed.
Do you use AI at all in your process, or
I don't, but I think I've gotten back into songwriting for others. It's just funny because that's kind of where this whole thing started, and I've been in sessions where it's been used. Like we would write a song, produce a song, and then run it through the app and see what ideas it would spit out. And sometimes you have to run it through several times to get something that you like. And um, it's cool. It's cool. Um, but I haven't used it for any of my stuff yet.
yeah, I will say that, I use it for our thumbnails because I don't have that creative, spirit to create thumbnails.
Yeah.
And I tried doing it, and I don't think they're that great. And AI can do such a better thumbnail than I can, but, and it's funny because my daughters go, "You're using AI." I said, look at I edit, I do everything about the podcast. The only thing that I use AI for is the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Everything else is authentically us.
Yeah.
I came up with 2 songs that AI helped me create. It came from, what I wanted. It came from my ideas, but I will say that it's not 100% mine, but it's something that I wanted our podcast to just have something that sounded really cool because I didn't have anything else. What we had was, just this bland thing that we were playing music a little bit underneath. So
Mhm.
I was just trying to add a little dynamic, and I don't see a harm in AI doing those type of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you have the authenticity in the Common Ground podcast is this part, right? It's us talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's us doing this. So for me to go and take other parts that you know aren't aren't necessary in the authenticity part of it,
Yeah.
that aren't the core of it, I don't see an issue with.
I think, since it's still new, only the lens of history will tell us what worked and what didn't. 5
Mhm.
years, the
Yeah, for
conversation will be
sure.
completely different about it. And I know it's a tough issue out here in the artist community. Same guy I was talking about earlier, Ryan Tedder, he said he uses it as a tool to add on to what he's doing. He's not using it to replace anyone in the room. And I think that the issue becomes like, some people are using it to replace
Yeah.
someone that they would have worked with or they would have paid in the beginning. Um, but yeah, it's so new and so fresh. It's I have thoughts on it, but I don't know. My thoughts might change over the next couple of years. But yeah, I haven't used it for my music. My day jobs and whatnot. There are processes that have to go through some kind of AI filter and whatnot. But I haven't
Yeah.
used it for my music. So
That makes sense.
So you've been in Nashville 14 years, correct?
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
correct?
feels like just yesterday. But yeah, 14 years.
So if you could go back to the version of yourself who first arrived in Nashville 14 years ago,
Mm.
what would you say to him? What advice would you give him?
I would tell them enjoy every moment. Don't take anything for granted. Um, uh, enjoy the friendships and um, try to hang on to them as tightly as you can when they're there. Um, I'd also say that there's limits to the work ethic. You could put in the time, but don't do it at a detriment to yourself. Um, and also, I would probably tell myself to have more adventures. I feel like it is important to spend a lot of time on this craft to perfect it and to get better. But I feel like there also needs to be time for vacations and adventures and new experiences. Because after all, that is what we write from. We write from our life experiences. So I would have encouraged him to do more life experiences and not work so much. Um, and um, and to get mentors that have gone through what you want, where you want to go, and try to soak up knowledge from them and learn from them. Um, yeah, that's some of the advice I'd probably give that 14 years younger version of myself.
Good advice.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And I know there were still parts of your story we didn't get into. People will have to listen to the album to figure out
Yeah,
that. And I encourage that. And yeah, we'll just have to have you back on because I think there's a lot more we can discuss about your journey and what you've done. But that's going to take us to our final 2 segments, with the first one being key takeaways.
key takeaways.
I think the overwhelming theme is first of all authenticity. The journey, maybe the journey to learning who au- authentically you are. Authenticity just doesn't happen. I think you need to come face to face with who you are. Sometimes that's going off and doing something you're not to be like, wow, that's not who I am, or that's not what I want to be. Because I think we're very easily, especially in today's world, full with distractions, right? So easily we can go rabbit or squirrel, and we're off chasing something that we isn't authentically who we are.
Mhm.
Um, so to come and really come and have that heart to heart talk with yourself and being like, what do I truly enjoy? What do I truly want to? And how do I want to represent me? Um, I think there's a million people who go to bed every night not being able to put their head on their pillow and sleep restlessly through the night because in their brain they're fighting subconsciously, not knowing that they're fighting a battle of inauthenticity.
Mm,
They're doing things that they know aren't who authentically in themselves.
yeah.
And so they can't sleep at night because they're worried about things because they're doing things that aren't authentically who they are.
Mm,
And and so I think having that authentic challenge. And I think when you know who you authentically are, AI and other stuff doesn't scare you.
right.
Like
Yeah.
if you're solid, if you're solid in who you
Yeah.
authentically are, what's AI what can AI do to minimize it? It can't,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because you know the greatest gift of who you authentically are.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're afraid of AI, maybe it's afraid because you don't know who you truly are and you're worried
Yeah.
that AI is going to make you something that you're not.
Mm,
But if you know who you are, AI can't take that away from you.
I love that key takeaway. I think that that's super profound. I think that, I mean, I agree with everything that you just said. To spin off that just a little bit, almost adding to it, I think that my key takeaway is that not everything meaning, meaningful needs to sound profound, meaning that
Mm,
it doesn't need to be pitched. It doesn't need to be sold to somebody. That real connection usually comes from honesty and not performance. That identity becomes dangerous when it becomes dependent on achievement. And that's something that I've learned just in my life, that peace starts when you stop needing your life to look impressive. And I'm not saying that in terms of our guest today. I just mean in general from the audience, that it takes a lot to get from where from nothing musically to where our guest is today. That takes a lot. And I wanted to be, I remember so distinctly, I remember when I was like 5 years old, telling my dad, asking me, he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said that I wanted to be a singer, was my words as a 5-year-old. I said a singer. And I'm saying that intentionally because that's how I said it when I was 5 years old. I said, I want to be a singer. Okay. Not a vocalist, not a musician. I didn't have those fancy words as a 5-year-old. And my dad's exact response to me was, I don't want you to be a starving artist, right? Okay. There's some validity in that. We're not going to take away from that. There's a lot of data to support the fact that if you want to be a musician, that if you want to be an artist of some kind, that there is a starving artist mentality that goes into that. So I'm not going to subtract from that and saying what my dad taught me. But on the same note, it subtracted from the validity of the passion that I had and still have today. I say that because I am now a published musician of 3 songs that I have that are on the market today. Didn't cost me pretty much anything other than my subscription. Like, this is vocal talent that I already had. This is AI that I used that I had a subscription to. Like, it's AI added to my ability to do this, right? But what I'm saying is that vulnerability creates connection. Okay. Your willingness to be vulnerable about the tools that you use allows for connection in industries that are relevant to your line of work. Simplicity can carry truth. That's just a fact that a lot of people ignore. Simplicity can carry truth about the line of work that you're in, about what you want to do long term. Simplicity, there's honesty that goes into that, that I think that as society we ignore, that we need to not. Honesty resonates with people more than image does. It's not who this flashy person is, it's what does this person bring to the table that has value to me. And this is a sales pitch that I teach my salespeople all the time, and I hate this, but the reality is it's not about you. Nobody gives a shit what you bring to the table. And I just to be frank, nobody cares what you bring to the table. It's what's in it for me.
Mhm.
And that has to do with music, it has to do with technology, it has to do with sales, it has to do with energy, it has to do with insurance, it has to do whatever it is you sell, nobody cares. Hear me when I say, anybody in the sales industry, nobody cares. What do you bring to the table for your buyer? That is all that they care about. What's in it for me? Honesty resonates more than image. The second thing is that self-worth cannot rely on success. Whatever it is that you bring to the table is not dependent on your level of success. It depends on what you bring to the table for your buyer. It's not, oh, it's that I bring it to the table because I am successful. It's what do I bring to the table for you because you need it? Not what do I bring to the table because I am who I am. There's a difference in that a lot of people in sales don't recognize. This is in the entertainment industry, this is in the energy industry, this is in the insurance industry, like whatever industry that you're in, if you are selling something that of high value, if you are selling something that is of network to people, it does not matter what you bring to the table if it is not of value to someone else. And that is what people in the music industry miss, that I very gravely have to enforce in this conversation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is that you sell, what it is that you offer, what it is that you network with. It's like, seriously, nobody cares. Nobody cares. If you do not have connections, it doesn't matter. Have you had experience with that?
So we didn't get into it too much, but I am in a marketing program that that we talk about connection, and essentially parallels with what you're saying of it's not about, what I it's not like look at me, here's my music. It's about how does this song, how does this aesthetic, how does this represent someone else, and how do they see themselves in this? And that is uh, where I'm still growing and still learning of how to ensure that um, I'm giving value to people, ensuring that they uh, leave with something that they can latch onto. And that is part of this artist journey is growing in the shift of learning, um, you know, how to market and position and really grow that community. Because yeah, like a community is not people that are just there's an exchange that happens. Like I'm giving, they're receiving, and we are in communication with one another. So um, yeah, that is something that I've been definitely working on with this project in the last couple years. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
John, take it to our final.
And do you have one thing that you wanna your takeaway or mic drop moment?
I think my takeaway is that the journey is a beautiful thing. I think that when you are honest about your journey, your faults, your mistakes, the lessons you've learned, the fact that you don't know everything, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that it's interesting because, this talk has been a lot about my former season, and it's not been a season that I've necessarily had to revisit until today. And it's just like, it's interesting because when I was in that season, that was everything. That was my whole world, my night and day, my 24/7, 365. But now, a couple years later, I'm in a different season, a different part of the journey, and it's just cool to remember that whether it's good or bad, life is seasons, and if you can look back on a season and be like, I've grown from that, then I think that's impactful, that's powerful, and uh, I am grateful that this season is something that I've gone through, so that I have, matured and evolved in a way. And I look forward to the next season. And yeah, I think that's my key takeaway, I think, from this.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And as always, we ask our audience to let us know what your key takeaway from this episode was, what stood out for you, what uh what inspired you, and make sure that as you're commenting below, that you, especially on YouTube, you give us that follow, subscribe, and like. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and we really want to get to it as quickly as possible. Um, it helps our algorithms. It helps us keep guests like DaChri's coming on and creating content like this. So please make sure you subscribe, follow us, and if you have an opportunity, give us a 5-star rating on Apple and go to Google and give us a review. All that helps build the Common Ground brand, and we have a lot of things that we really want to do with you guys, and amazing stories like DaChri's to bring you guys and just start connecting this world with great talent, and great stories and great communities. So that's going to bring us to our final segment, called the Final Five.
Final Five.
And my first question for you is, who is your hero and why?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to John Bellion. That's my hero because he not only incorporates different genres in his music, but he's very vulnerable in his approach and very authentic. He had a record deal, and he walked away from it because it wasn't the right thing for him at the time. And he writes from such a place that he's not going for hit records per se. He's going for authenticity. He's going for the season that he's actually going through in life. And he's a man of faith, and he brings all that together very nicely. And I think that is my musical hero anyway. Yeah.
I love that. That's a good one. The second question for you is, what's a hill that you will die on that most people may disagree with?
When you're an artist, you're an artist. I don't think that every artist, I don't think success is equated in financial gain every time. I don't think that it is always equated by numbers and metrics and data. It can be, but I feel like if you're an artist, you're an artist. I feel like we all speak from different places through our lived experience and those around us. And some artists are slow creators, some are fast creators. Like there's different levels and different types of creatives, but I feel like if you're an artist, you're an artist. If you know in your heart that you're an artist, you are. It doesn't matter what the outside world is saying, but if you know that you are, then you are.
Good stuff.
What is either one book, song, quote, verse, saying, that's had either the greatest impact or really changed your perspective on life? Or
I'm gonna actually pull it up real quick. So it is a Bible verse, and it comes from Romans 3:5, and this was a verse that I discovered right in the middle of my separation and divorce while I'm working on the record. So it was like perfect time. And it was, but not only that, we take pride in our problems because we know that trouble produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. This hope doesn't put us to shame because the love of God has poured out in our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has given to us. And I felt like through that season of my life, I was going through the suffering producing character and character producing hope. And yeah, that is a passage.
Love those verses.
Yeah.
Love those verses. Romans is a great book.
Yeah, Romans is good.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, but it's good nonetheless.
Yeah.
Question number 4 for you is, if your younger self met you today, what would he be most proud of?
I think he'd be proud of the fact that I'm doing this artist journey as a solo artist. I think, like I said, when I came into this thing, I was always in bands. I never felt like I could stand alone, be in the forefront, be the guy. And I think the younger version of me would be surprised and impressed and shocked that this is where I'm at. And the fact that I've written an album that has some pop elements in it, because like I said, I didn't start off that way. So I think he'd be shocked about all those things.
Awesome. If you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with anybody living or dead, who would it be and why?
Living or dead? That's tough because there's so many people. And I don't want to say anything cliche, so so okay, I'm gonna go with my grandmother who passed when I was a child, because I don't want to go celebrity. I want to go with that because she never got to see the man that I have become, the person I've grown into being, and I just would hope that she's proud and seeing who I've matured and who I've become since her passing, and just want to thank her for her influence on my life. So that's actually who I would love to have a cup of coffee with just right now and hug.
Love it. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
And if our audience wants to, follow you on your journey musically, ask you, questions, just keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you?
I'm probably most active on TikTok, which is I am DaChri's, my name, or Instagram is your boy DaChri. I'm pretty active on both of those social platforms. So yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Also, make sure you go and subscribe and follow him on those platforms. It's been an honor getting to know you, DaChri. I love your story, love your journey.
Thank you.
And definitely will be following along, watching what comes of DaChri. I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, when we take the time to hear someone's story, it gives us the opportunity to find common ground. Thank you again, DaChri, for being our guest today for Sydney and myself. It has been our pleasure being your host, and you have been listening to the Common Ground podcast. God bless and good night.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground podcast.
Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground Podcast. The Common Ground Podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground Podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground Podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.